So stocks are crashing today as we got some new consumer data and market data, which I got to go over with you. And this is from Financial Times. It says U.S. stocks fall sharply as tech sell-off resumes. And you can see that line right there is literally just going straight down, and that's Thursday. Basically, we're in an AI bubble, and effectively people are trying to figure out, okay, who's going to be the winners of this AI thing? Who's going to be the losers? And also, even if you are a winner, a lot of this stuff is based on debt and a lot of really, really big promises. And at the moment, maybe there are going to be more losers than winners. I mean, just having this massive sell-off. Some of the market data, this was a big one, was real estate, which we'll go into some of the details in a moment here. But real estate report, quote, a new housing crisis as January home sales tank more than 8%. There was an expected downturn this month as cold weather, usually people just aren't buying homes so much, but not necessarily this big. I think this is like the biggest in 4 years downturn. And then you got Trumpers, right, doing what Trumpers doing. They're going to claim art of the deal. That's according to them. And this is the trade rep, which is Greer and the gang. The deal maker in chief, they say, continues to lock in agreements on reciprocal trade with our trading partners spanning from Buenos Aires to Kuala Lumpur. The best is yet to come, as POTUS tariff program delivers greater market access for American products, securing trade deals covering over half the world's population. So according to Trump and them, it's the art of the deal, President Trump with tariffs, right? That's according to them, that you're all awesome and you're all rich. They're also going to claim you're going to save a $2,400 per car, according to them, because what they're doing, they're cutting back, they're going to call it red tape, but basically they're cutting EPA, environmental protection. So from the Trump people, you should expect more dirty water, more dirty air. They hate the environment and they love coal. Trump's going on and on about coal and oil and, fossil fuels, this kind of stuff. And for me, this is actually, for me, it's a no-brainer. All of us as human beings should want clean air and clean water. I think it's a pretty obvious thing, but, when you're dealing with Trumpers and MAGA, they try to get you, I don't know, thinking in this alternate universe that, oh, you don't need water, you don't need air, just more coal jobs for you, get back in the mines. And that's essentially what this is all about. It's pretty ridiculous. And then you look at what the economy is up to, and as I told you guys before, you have the downturn in housing. If you're in real estate, we have a lot of people in our community that are in real estate. I want to hear your thoughts on this stuff. But yeah, home sales in January posted biggest monthly decline in nearly 4 years. Down 8.4%. You can see the chart there. These are some of the reasons. I'll go through it. So it says home sales fell 8.4% in January, the biggest monthly decline since February 2022. You got snowstorms and low consumer confidence, right? So basically people are worried about the economy. They're worried about their jobs. Things cost too much. Some of the numbers, though, in particular, they're saying stubbornly high home prices, so homes cost too much. Home prices are too high. You have a 30-year mortgage rate that is above 6%. And then you got homes that are still on the market, like they've been trying to sell, but it just, they're stuck there, I guess. And then you have, it says 2/3 of home buyers in 2025 paid below original listing price. So, it could be someone puts something on the market. It takes longer to sell than normal. Price is too high, and if they really need to sell, they come down in price, and that's like 2/3 of the market, I guess, last year in 2025. But that's the people who are making transactions. Evidently, though, this past January was pretty ugly. So again, if you're in real estate, I'd like to hear from your markets on this, but this is what people are saying. If you look at the stock market, this is what people are saying over there. This is from Yardini Research. They say, from AI-phoria to AI phobia. So basically from bubble to, everyone selling off. Quote, for those who live through the advent of the internet, this feels like deja vu all over again. So basically .com bubble kind of stuff. Both AI and the internet are technological disruptions profound enough to shift the behavior of just about everyone, right? Here's another quote on the AI bubble. AI might be boosting the economy thanks to massive capex. So we're building all kinds of data centers and stuff like that, right? Massive capex, productivity enhancements, but it's becoming a net negative for the stock market. AI is demolishing stocks and legacy industries. That's a quote here. Let's check in on what the Trump people have to say about what's going on.
Peter Navarro, you didn't answer my question. We had Liberation Day. No, you did not.
I said your question was, what will satisfy Peter Navarro? And I said, when the trade deficit
what is the
zero.
What is the optimum blended tariff rate? James Dimon wants to know that. Brian Moynihan wants to know that. Solomon over at Goldman Sachs wants to know that. And the people in the 1st Congressional District of Iowa,
this is over on Bloomberg. You can see things are getting pretty testy over there as one of Trump's people is trying to defend Trump's tariff policy. Like, why don't you answer the question, right? Let's see what else that Navarro has to say here.
We heading as these exemptions come in. Do you see a 7% optimal tariff rate? 4%? Do we capitulate and go right back to 2 to 3%?
So here's a Kevin Spacey aside here. Jamie Dimon, lower your friggin' credit card interest rates. You are a criminal the way you charge the American people at 22, 25, and 30%, and the president wants you to lower that. So until, Jamie, until you do that, please refrain from commenting on other public policies.
For the record, Paul,
got that off my chest.
I didn't
now,
get an answer
with respect to your question,
please,
the way we think about it, Tom, and this is important, is that every country that we trade with is like fingerprints, right? They're unique, which is to say they cheat us in their own way. It's like some countries like India have had the highest tariffs. Some countries like Japan have had the highest non-tariff barriers. Some countries like China have all of that stuff going on. So when you ask me what the appropriate tariff would be, it's bespoke. It's like what President Trump does. He goes country by country by country, and he sets the tariffs according to how badly they're cheating us. So there's no blended tariff concept here. It's like a country-specific tariff.
Thank you for that.
That's our conversations on Bloomberg when you send Trump people on there, right? And so basically they try to avoid answering questions. They make personal attacks. And then they start acting like everyone's a criminal, basically, right? Countries are like fingerprints. And it's like talking about Kevin Spacey all of a sudden. The dude's all over the map. And this is how ugly it is. And, you know, obviously, if you're trying to talk to any of the Trump people, they're completely unqualified. They don't make any sense of whatever, and they just get angry when you call them out. So there's that. This is sort of why, you know, when I go over this stuff with you guys, I just like to show you, you know, what does the overall market data say, and talk, you know, just like a normal person. And also I want to hear your thoughts in a real conversation, because I feel like these days it's just a lot of yelling and a lot of shouting. That was Bloomberg too, which is crazy. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Then it says, Americans with higher incomes are starting to fall behind on payments. So basically this is a chart here, people going into fall, people, you know, falling behind on their payments. That just the number of people doing that it keeps going up. Before, when you would go to credit counseling, right? You need help paying your bills, need some, you know, assistance, need some help. Credit counseling agencies, okay? So before, people who would do this, the average income would be $40,000 a year, and you would have $10,000 in debt. So that would be roughly 25% of your annual income, and that's, I think we're talking about unsecured debt here, okay? Now, it's really gone up. So now, I'll read it. The average client seeking help from credit counseling agencies across the country now makes about $70,000 a year. Okay, that's the average. So the average person making 70 grand is having trouble right now. And unsecured debt levels are approaching 35,000. Let these numbers sink in. So before, people who go to credit counseling services, they were making on average about 40 grand, and they had about 10,000 in debt, okay? Today, 70,000 a year, people are struggling, and unsecured debt at 35,000. And what this tells you is that people are really struggling to pay for groceries, right? So maybe they're using their credit card at the grocery store. They're struggling to pay medical bills. So maybe they're using their credit card to pay medical bills. They're struggling to pay utilities, like these kind of things. And again, probably using credit card to pay these things, or taking out personal loans or check cashing services or whatever. It's just really ugly out there. This is a quote then. It says, we are seeing a disturbing shift from discretionary debt to survival debt. That's what they're rephrasing it. That is like the credit counseling service to calling this from discretionary debt to survival debt. And then we're looking at levels basically at the great financial crisis kind of levels. It's really ugly out there. And you're seeing here also several nonprofit counseling agencies, including the Consolidated Credit and Money Management International, reported double-digit enrollment increases last year. So more and more people are going to help for this stuff. And again, the big concern is now it's becoming a broader spectrum of people who are struggling. And then again, the average is 70,000 of people who are struggling. 70,000 a year is what they make, that people are struggling. Then when you look at also the reason why the markets are crashing the way that it is, these like whacked out culture war stuff that the Trumpers do. So Tim Cook, in Apple, they sponsored the Super Bowl halftime show. I think it was like the Apple Super Bowl halftime. Tim Cook then took a picture with Bad Bunny, right? Bad Bunny does his performance. I thought it was fantastic. I saw it for myself. The camera work was great. Performance was great. Dancing was great. It was all in Spanish though, which upsets a lot of MAGA people because they hate other languages and they hate other countries. And according to Navarro, you're all getting fingerprinted criminal kind of stuff, right? And that just shows you who the Trump people are. And so now they're mad at Tim Cook and such. And then the Trump goons, they send the FTC. They say, FTC tells Tim Cook to look into reports that Apple News is censoring conservatives. Why aren't you boosting Trump news articles to the top of the front page like every day? That's what it ends up being. Why isn't Fox News and Newsmax and, all of our, Trumpy stuff, why isn't that like the front page nonstop? It's just a bunch of nonsense. And then also you have, look at that. So you have the political attacks on Apple. And then you also have just real concerns about Apple's business, which is Siri. Siri's is not that great. You guys know this. Anyone who has an Apple phone, you know this. It's behind other companies, and then they're trying to upgrade it. I think they made deals, maybe Google, Gemini, and others, and that's going to be delayed, right? So you have a combination of things. It's their tech is behind, and plus you have political attacks, right, on Apple, and then you look at this also happening, and it's like every day you always wonder who's left working in the government. You always wonder that. Because another person resigns. Justice Department antitrust chief Slater resigns. Okay, and she was, it's not she, but just the DOJ. They work on big cases. Like a big monopoly case would be something like Live Nation, Ticketmaster. Are they a monopoly or not? This kind of stuff. And anyone who goes to live events in USA, you would know. Fees on that stuff is just ludicrously expensive. Nobody likes it. Like this is the kind of consumer stuff that it's the same for me. Just regular people on the ground, you should like clean air and clean water. It should just be a no-brainer stuff. The same with regular people on the ground, you should want affordable concert tickets. Like no one wants to pay, ridiculous like $20 fees sometimes on this stuff. It's sometimes more. And you guys can tell me how big these fees are, but that's just one example. You could look at like, grocery store mergers or media mergers or whatever. But and she's actually conservative or right wing, however you want to call it, because they were saying that she was like a advisor to J.D. Vance. It says a former top advisor to Vice President J.D. Vance. Slater was concerned by the Senate vote on 78-19. So and she's out evidently. This was the quote for her. He's getting pushed out by the Trump people probably. It says, it is with great sadness and abiding hope that I leave my role as AAG for antitrust today. It was indeed the honor of a lifetime to serve in this role. Huge thanks to all who supported me in this past year, most especially the men and women of the justice. And it's just like, who's working at the government these days? It's ridiculous, I'll read it here. It says the resignation comes amid internal disagreement at the Justice Department over merger enforcement, right? Companies making super companies, basically, right? Last month, the agency agreed to allow Compass Inc., so I think that's real estate, to close the acquisition of its largest rival, so bigger company buying its competitor, Anywhere Real Estate Inc., despite a recommendation from Slater and the DOJ antitrust lawyers for an in-depth review of the deal. So they weren't even like, hey, you should just cancel it, just we need to look at this more. This kind of stuff, right? This is something that we should all want again. Just regular consumers, you don't necessarily just want only one real estate company and that's it. It's not what you want. You want a real, market. Another one would be, I guess they were talking about an earlier dust-up over Hewlett-Packard purchase of Juniper Networks led DOJ leaders to fire Slater's two top deputies. So I guess her and other people are out. And then it says the Justice Department is heading to trial against Live Nation on March 2nd. Another man. And the list goes on this kind of stuff. The whole thing is, whacked out. And then you look at what's going on in the markets, going down today. And then when you bring the Trump people on TV to just have conversations, it's like a bunch of shouting matches, and you're talking to basically Trump morons. And this is where we're at. So that's what's going on in the markets. I'd like to hear your thoughts on any of these things. Appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.